tercera temporada de Alerta Verde. Soy Luis Pavesio y como siempre vamos a desarrollar los temas que están relacionados con la ecología y con el medio ambiente para que tomemos conciencia sobre el cuidado de nuestro planeta. Vamos a hablar de la sobrepesca y de sus consecuencias, pero esto no es todo. Tenemos mucho más para el programa de hoy.
Fisheries of the world are in trouble. If governments don't react quickly, we are going to lose more of the world's fish stocks. We've lost the Newfoundland cod, we've lost the North Sea cod for all intents and purposes. We're going to push them into a situation where they will never recover.
El gesto de los hijos de Juan Carlos Chévez es sumamente emocionante. Es una muestra cabal de que esto no tiene retorno, de que esto es imparable. La idea es que todos nos apropiemos de este nuevo parque nacional.
Es devastador el efecto que ejerce la sobrepesca sobre las reservas marinas y en la salud de los océanos, que lo analizamos con el periodista especializado inglés Charles Clover. La sobrepesca en los océanos consiste en la captura de la fauna silvestre que habita en sus aguas en cantidades demasiado elevadas como para que las especies capturadas no se puedan restablecer. ¿Cuál es la situación del recurso pesquero a nivel mundial?
Fisheries of the world are in trouble. They're on the way down. We have wild fisheries like the bluefin tuna, which are in extraordinary crisis, and we may not have this wonderful species anymore if we don't do something about it within 5 years. But across the world there are numerous examples of fisheries in similar crisis, and generally the prediction is that if we go on as we are, we could have run down the entire wild fisheries of the world by the amount that the North Sea cod has been run down, or the Newfoundland cod has been run down by somewhere around the middle of this century. At the same time as the human population has gone up by 50%.
¿Cuándo se empezó a detectar el declive de estas especies?
I think our problem is that this was detected only very recently. In 2002 was the first time we discovered that wild fish catches had peaked and were on the way down. Before, we had been lulled into a false sense of security by 20 years of official assurances that fish catches were going up. But in fact, those official figures were based on manipulated figures from the Chinese, who were basically misleading us, because communist officials have to have graphs that go up. Couldn't possibly have graphs that go down, but what the Chinese claimed to be catching was biologically impossible.
¿Cuánto tiene que ver la técnica que se utiliza para la pesca?
I think you're absolutely right. This is a crisis of technology. We can now catch anything in the world's oceans that we want to catch. Hunted animals do not have a chance, and so it is a crisis brought upon by technology and by the fact that our technological capability is streets ahead of our ability to limit ourselves and to manage the oceans rationally.
¿Hay poblaciones más críticas, hay especies más críticas en su situación?
Well, obviously we learned that there was a big problem when the Newfoundland cod went down in 1992. Now, despite a near ban on catching Newfoundland cod, it has not come back. That's the kind of thing that can happen. We're watching the bluefin tuna crisis in the Eastern Atlantic and Mediterranean at the moment. The Atlantic Tuna Commission is sitting and probably will make, again, the wrong reason, giving too many fish, too much quota to the fishermen, because it doesn't make rational decisions, because it's propelled by political imperatives.
Nuestra percepción del mar siempre ha sido que es inmenso, hermoso e inagotable. ¿Cuáles son los mares que tienen peor estado de salud?
I think you have to be very worried about seas of developing countries, particularly of Africa, where the EU is exporting its fishing effort, because the EU has caught all its fish in its own waters, and it's now importing 70% of its fish. So where is it getting its prawns from? Where is it getting its tuna from? Well, it's getting it from the waters of poor nations on the west coast of Africa and in the Indian Ocean. Why does it need to go so far? Because it's overfished everything in between. That's just about where I come from. But you know, there are other nations, particularly in Asia, who are doing the same thing. They've got fisheries agreements with Africa as well.
¿El tamaño de los peces va disminuyendo porque no se los deja crecer?
Yes, I mean the size of the fish in most of the world's large commercial fisheries is driven down by fishing pressure. I mean, cod used to reproduce at the age of 10 years. Fishing has actually altered evolution, so they now reproduce at 3 years, because otherwise they will be caught before they reproduce. So this is quite an awesome effect we're having upon marine ecosystems. And we need to set aside, I think, 20%, but maybe 40% of the oceans where biological productivity can be as it was before we exploited it, so that we can know how productive the seas can be if we don't hammer them as we're doing now.
¿Existen pocas áreas protegidas de las zonas pesqueras?
The present percentage of the world's oceans where you cannot fish is 1%. Now that is vastly smaller than the amount of protected areas on land, the national parks and other wildlife areas set aside, where it's around 10%.
¿Qué puede pasar si no hay una reacción rápida de los gobiernos?
If governments don't react quickly, we are going to lose more of the world's fish stocks. We've lost the Newfoundland cod, we've lost the North Sea cod to all intents and purposes. We've lost, you know, 2/3 of European fish stocks are below their biological replacement levels. That means they're overfished. You know, that's a huge number. If we go on as we are, we're going to lose more and more fish stocks. We're going to push them into a situation where they will never recover. Now, that's a huge thing to say of something that we all grew up believing were renewable resources. These are no longer going to be renewable in our lifetimes. And that's fairly shocking.
Los océanos son el patrimonio de toda la humanidad y durante miles de años han estado repletos de vida. Algo debemos hacer.